All right, so I'm just heading out of the gym after another early morning brutal workout session. And the reason why I'm doing these sessions is because I did something crazy, because I need a why. I need a very big, audacious goal in order to zero in my training. And that goal right now is to pass and get through and endure the Bedros Keuilian MDK project.
Society wants you to be a model citizen. And a model citizen, as I see it, is someone who's mediocre, obedient, dependent, entertained, and lifeless.
So the MDK project, if you're not tracking, is a 75-hour mini hell week to get dudes like myself dialed back in and to see if I still have what it takes to hang with the big boys. And I'm going to go over a lot of the details in this episode with my coach LP, because we're coming up with a plan. Because I'm in my 40s, I'm not as fast as I used to be, I'm not as strong as I used to be, but I want to be able to prove to myself that I can do something as brutal as what you're going to see in this little sizzle reel. So stay tuned to my channel. We're going to be going over my progression in lead up to it. I'm going to be heading over to LA in March to do this mini hell week. I never got to do anything similar when I was in, and it scares me shitless to put my name in the ring and go do it, but that's the whole point. Get uncomfortable and get after it. So hope you enjoy the episode. Hope you get a lot of actionable intel on how to train and what it's like to train in your 40s and beyond for something as demanding as a mini hell week. So enjoy, stay tuned, make sure to like, subscribe. Peace.
Start listening to my commands, the shit's gonna get bad.
It's only during the hardest times that men get to see what they're really
Do you have any doubt I'll make you crawl here for hours and hours?
Most men are fighting a constant war within themselves. The internal war between choosing greatness or accepting a life of mediocrity. For most men, the war within goes unnoticed for decades. Ultimately, the measure of a man isn't where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and adversity. But like any great journey, ours starts with one man.
All right, so LP, welcome. This is again. So officially, you're the most recorded guest on the Hard to Kill podcast. So congratulations, man! You did it. Episode. This is the fourth time you've been on. Fourth time.
This, so I believe this is number 4. I was not aware that this was going straight into the podcast.
Of course, you're going to go into the podcast. Of course, you're going to go into the podcast. We got to share everything, man. And the reason why. The reason why I got you on today is because, again, I've come up with some crazy idea and started to, ruminate about, hey, I went to this event, this business event, Bedros Keuilian Live in LA about a month ago. And he's got this thing called The Project, the Modern Day Night Project. And it's a 3-day Navy SEAL inspired beasting to see what you're made of. And immediately I was like, oh my God, I have to do that. And so I signed up on the spot.
In true Dave Morrow fashion.
Yeah, in true Dave Morrow YOLO fashion. I said, yeah, I'm in. I need this. I need to be like broken down, beaten up. This is where I'm happiest. This is where in the military I found my happiest place. I don't know. I'm a masochist. That's what from day one they said, you're kind of a masochist. I'm like, yeah, I think I am. I like this. I like being in pain. And so I haven't had it in a while. And so I figured, why not? And it's also a business mastermind, but that's a whole other different conversation. So as soon as I let you know, you're like, oh, okay. I'm going to need to change my training to reflect what this is going to do. And so that's the point of the conversation today. It's, like I said, 3 days of just pure beasting. It is literally run by Navy SEALs. So their hell week is pretty brutal. It's supposed to reflect that in a microcosm without being like actually military. It's just for civilians. And a goal is going to see if you can endure. And so I've asked you to put together something that would help me get through this 3-day of hell. And we started already. And the point of the conversation is to see, okay, why did you pick the stuff that you did? And I'm like, what am I doing moving forward? Knowing that I'm 42, I'm old, my joints are creaky, my back hurts, and I'm not a 25-year-old young gun anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, man, let's do it. Do we jump right into it?
Yeah, why not, man? Like, I mean, we got limited time. Like, the people want to hear, they want to know, how is Dave going to get from where he's at now? Now, I'm not starting from nothing, right?
No.
I recognize that, I've consistently been training, and of important note, I've got over 600 workouts with you, man. That's incredible, man. That's huge.
There we go.
So on average, it's been 5 years, 6 years. So it's about 100 workouts a year that I've been doing with you, roughly, which is pretty cool. So I'm happy about that. I want to bump it up for sure and be more consistent. So what are we looking at here? Like, big picture, you're taking a guy like myself, and clearly this is going to be like an endurance event. What's going to be the main focus for a guy like myself to get ready for this?
Yeah. And so to give some context for anybody who's going to be listening, we're like 23 weeks out or something like that. Like, I'd have to go
March.
Under, but this is kind of the timeline that we're working on. And so we have to come up with a 6-month plan, essentially, to get you ready for this thing. And you've been doing things consistently for ever. That being said, the stuff that you've been doing recently in your recent interests were not necessarily in line with the demands of what you're going to have to be doing in that, I was going to say weekend, but it's during the week, right?
During the week.
I think it's like Tuesday to Friday or something like that.
Yeah.
During that event, let's call it an event. And so if we're looking at what you've been doing recently, it's been more strength training and BJJ. Which is great. Like, you're getting some GPP working, you're getting like your heart rate up, you're maintaining a certain level of muscle mass. Well, I mean, you've been building muscle mass, actually.
I've been building a lot of muscle mass, man.
It's surprising the amount of results you've been getting on the 2-day-a-week program.
Well, I have to be honest. I think it's the stress reduction. I think it's getting more sleep and just being a little bit more focused on macros. And just focusing more on stress reduction that has improved, because it's got to be like the reduction in cortisol and just the access to more. And I need to get myself tested for like free and total testosterone to see if that's changed. But I think that might be it. I think that might be one of the main reasons why. Just I've reduced stress a little bit.
Yeah, and we know that if you're getting the same training stimulus and you're getting more recovery from more sleep and less stress, you're going to get more out of the stimulus than if you are in a more stressed environment, for sure. And so putting that aside, what we're realizing now is that the stuff that you've been doing is almost at a polar opposite from a resistance training standpoint to what you're going to be doing during the event. Like, you're going to have to endure. Right now, you're good with a lot of strength pieces, low repetition, short duration. Blend that in with the BJJ, you've got a certain level of endurance, but we've got to build you a massive engine, and we've got to build you up to have a lot of muscle endurance, essentially. And so what we're doing, and I'm kind of looking at it in like a 2 times 12-week plan, because the other thing that we didn't discuss is that along the way, you also want to improve body composition. You want to get lean, you want to get fit, you want to do that event, but you also want to look good when you're doing the event. And so we're doing that on the front end with the general prep, which is, let's call it your GPP phase. Okay, so your general phase, which will be the first 12 weeks. And then the second 12 weeks is going to be more specific to gearing you up towards stuff that's going to be inside the event. And so what we want to do now is we want to build the biggest, broadest base possible that we can over a 12-week period. So we've got to increase your training volume. We've got to increase your muscle endurance. We've got to increase your aerobic capacity by making you spend more time at a certain level of elevated heart rate spend more time on your feet. So we're doing a lot of running right now, and we're building the volume of that. And now essentially what the program looks like, we're in the first 4 weeks. You're doing 3 days of resistance training per week, plus you're doing 2 running sessions per week, assuming that your schedule is going to allow you. And plus you're still doing some BJJ, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at least once a week. At least once a week, I have a good roll, and then I usually do like a technical day where I'm just working on technique, because that's
Nice.
really all I can. That's really all I can handle, because it's so brutal doing like a good roll, and you're going like 80-90%. It's brutal in the body. So I just want to be able to recover, because my priority is getting ready for this and not necessarily getting ready for a BJJ competition. So
Yeah. Yeah. And so the take home message here at this point is like, we've increased your training volume, your training frequently significantly. And so right now we're in a phase where we're taking you from this to that in a way that's going to not burn you out and not get you injured. And the training you're doing in the gym is kind of the opposite of what you had been doing, which is a lot of either straight set or smart superset, like upper lower superset for time saving purposes, lower reps. Like you're doing like more German body comp type training right now, which is compound exercises, high repetition, potentially slower tempo, shorter rest intervals, and a lot of back and forth. And we're kind of grinding you out through those training sessions. Like you're huffing and puffing a lot more than your typical training resistance training session right now.
the worst one in the best way is the Romanian deadlifts, 12 reps, which is pretty high volume, and then moving to 15 reps of the landmine shoulder press. So that just alone, if that was just a workout, that's tiring. There's still more to it. At 4 sets, I am sweating like a madman at the end of that, and it's very different. You're right, than what I was doing even like a month ago, where I wouldn't be sweating. I wasn't really like immediately after a set. Yeah, I was breathing heavy, but I wasn't tired, and the rest periods were longer. Rest periods are a lot shorter, and the volume's higher. The reps are higher. I've noticed already a difference in just my body composition when I look in the mirror. My weight isn't coming down. I think it's because, primarily like I'm eating more. I'm putting more carbs in my diet, but I look better, if that makes sense, just because I think I'm just like my cells are just a little bit more fuller, got a little bit more carbohydrate, got more glycogen, but I feel stronger. Like, does that make sense? In a few weeks, just with the higher volume, like I'm going to be adding muscle almost inevitably, right? And that's kind of part of the intent.
Yeah. You're getting more total. So the biggest thing we want to look at for building muscle, so for hypertrophy, right, is like how many sets you're doing in a week. Mm-hmm. And can we build up that total training volume towards, like, let's call it from a minimal effective dose towards a maximum amount of recoverable volume, right? Or a maximum effective dose, and then seeing how you respond to that. We're definitely anticipating that you're going to be putting on some muscle. And then in terms of the body weight, we're also anticipating that this thing's going to start going down eventually with the increased expenditure, and as we dial in your calorie intake, which is the other side of the equation, which we're still like, this was like the first 4 weeks was triangulating that and figuring out like your eating routine so that this fits with the amount of training volume you're doing.
Right. Yeah. So let's take me out of the equation and just take in general for, let's say, a dude that's in his 40s and looking to get fit. Is this something like what I'm doing right now? Is this something that you would have somebody do kind of out of the gate if they wanted to get a little bit stronger and put on a little bit more muscle mass? Or is this a little bit more advanced than what you would do with somebody that's just kind of getting out of the gate?
Yeah. If somebody comes to me with body composition goals, depending on their training age and their lifting experience, my default programming style is probably going to be German body comp for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, because it's time effective. And if you get the exercise selection right, which, I mean, if you just understand who the person is, their experience and what they've done in the past, you put them through a basic assessment, you can understand clearly what kind of exercise fit the bill for them. Like, as an example, somebody who's less experienced, like you're doing like back squats and pull-ups, right? They may be doing heel elevated goblet squats and some sort of dumbbell row, but the principle behind the training program is the same. And the beauty of these upper lower splits with high repetitions and a lot of time and attention is that you're getting a massive hypertrophic stimulus, so it's like a resistance training tension stimulus. And then you're also getting a really good cardiac effect as well, because you're moving for a while. You're asking your body to send blood to the lower extremities and then the upper extremities. So your heart is kind of having to deal with that demand. And so you're getting the best of both worlds and allowing them to build motor control if they're less experienced by doing a lot of repetition, which means practice. So for sure, somebody who's new to the game, this is the type of training that I'm going to make them do. And oftentimes people are engaged to in that type of training, which is a bonus when it comes to writing a good program.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, and the other interesting thing that I've noticed too, I thought it was going to be super sore, but I'm not. And that might just be because I realized I wrote down, I was talking to a potential client about just like training age and how long I've been working out. And I've been in the gym, honestly, since I was like 7, 8 years old. I started with my dad. That is a lifetime worth of reps, you know? And so that definitely has an effect. And now I'm just wondering, is that why I'm not really feeling as sore? I'll feel it the next day, but especially my legs, but I'm not messed up. I can still go back in and do another session. Is that just, years of prep that allows me to not be as sore? Like, where do you think that comes from?
Yeah, I think partly that. Definitely, like for people who've been following your journey, like you've done a lot of endurance type stuff in the last couple of years, like working your way all the way up to an Ironman. So you're definitely attuned to being enduring to volume, even though you haven't done it in the recent while. It's been the bulk of your training for the last couple of years. So there's potentially that. There's also the fact that I was being really conscious of the fact that we were switching from one end of the spectrum to the other. So like we've been working, like remember what we said before, like we started at a minimum amount of volume and we're adding sets on a weekly basis. So maybe we did our job right in terms of giving you the right amount of volume initially and pushing it forward. The last part that I'm thinking about too is like you're still increasing load on your exercises. So you were potentially smart in starting a little bit conservative and not destroying yourself on the first week, which is a nice lesson for anybody listening. Like there's no point in wrecking yourself on week one, like if we're playing the long game here. And then number 4, honestly, I was a bit surprised too by how little like complaining you did after the first few weeks. Like I thought you were going to be more sore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, me too. But again, I think like it's just what you said. I've been tolerating a lot of volume over time, and it's not like that just goes away. So I'm definitely a long, long journey type human being. The Ironman was hard, but it didn't crush me. And I recognize like endurance stuff is kind of my jam. So when the training reflects that in the gym, I kind of fall into like I don't know, you want to call it like the zone or whatever, but I definitely can get into that zone where it's like 15 reps, cool. But when I'm doing like 3-5 rep sets, that really hurts me. Like that crushes me. One thing I wanted to touch on, you said in the training program, want a high rep stimulus. Can you explain what that is a little bit more? And it was relative to the pull-up stuff, the banded pull-ups, which doing like 12 reps. What is that high rep stimulus? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, the idea for somebody who's just let's be more general and then we'll gear it more towards you. So the idea for someone starting out is that they don't have the same amount of motor control as somebody who's more experienced. And so being able to express like a true amount of strength potential with lower repetition is just not going to be as productive. Like, and we've all seen it in the gym where you ask somebody who's a fairly beginner to do a really heavy set of squat, as an example. And it's like, let's say 5 reps, heavy 5. And then they do their heavy 5 and they're like, oh yeah, that was really hard. And then 45 seconds later, they're ready to get back under the bar and do another set. There's anyone who's experienced is like, bro, like I just did 5 reps and now I'm going to wait 4 minutes before I can do this shit again. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas they're just not built up neurologically to express their level of capacity. So they're kind of, and I'm speaking in general terms here, this is not an actual truth, but it's they're wasting a bit more of their time with this type of training, whereas we can challenge them to do more repetition and get more out of that, and also get more practice at the movement. And also tying it back to doing more reps increases the metabolic stimulus of the whole thing. And so you're getting cardiac adaptations at the same time as you're getting muscular adaptation more so.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the first thing. And then for you, it's because we want to build work capacity. We want to build work capacity. We want to build volume tolerance so that the next more sport specific phase, you're going to be building upon more volume and you're going to be doing more sport specific stuff, let's call them. And you're going to be ready to tolerate and build up that volume even more. And so if I'm in the earlier phases of this, I'm kind of priming you to prepare for maximum, let's call it maximum volume in this specific phase. And from a period, as the more I talk, the more ideas that come into my mind. And from a periodization standpoint, it's just classic. It's kind of the classic approach to start with something that is of lower intensity, so lighter weights and more repetition, and build tissue, build muscle tissue, build resilience, and work your way down towards higher intensities with lower repetitions.
Yeah.
That's kind of a general outline that you can follow over a training block or even a training season.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool. So moving on to kind of more what I'm going to be up to get ready for this, and kind of like how we've set up things moving forward. Like you said, we got about 20 something plus weeks before I hit the line of departure. So one thing we're going to be doing is a DEXA scan so that we can have some objective measures of my actual body composition. That is pretty much the gold standard. So I'm going to be setting that up for next week. So more to follow on that. Additionally, come like next year.
It's the closest, most accurate thing you're going to get. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Without, well, I mean, you could get into a dunk tank, but then that's a whole other question. Like,
exactly.
We're not going to do that. We're not going to go allowed to do that. So then the next big kind of objective is we're going to be doing just an event to put me into the freaking pain cave. That's going to be, late January-ish. I'm still kind of figuring out what that's going to be, but it's just going to be there to like test my mental resilience. So whether it's like a Goggins 4x4x48 or a 24-hour ruck march in the cold or something to be just grueling, that's going to be something we're going to do too. And then we're going to wrap that all up with some final testing and some DEXA scans. Now, one of the tests that we haven't gone over yet is the actual PT test for the project, so the MDK project, and it's called the 302. Yeah.
So here's how it breaks down. It's called the 302 because there are 3 exercises with a mile on each end of it, bookending it. So it breaks down just like this. There's a 1 mile run followed immediately by 100 push-ups, 100 squat thrusts, and 100 crawl-outs immediately into another 1 mile run. Now that all doesn't have to be done straight through, as in you don't have to do 100 push-ups in one set. You break it down how you need to. It's just a running clock from beginning to end. The 302 PFT Project Fitness Test. Now, here's the thing. You have 75 minutes to complete this entire test. That is the maximum allotted time.
Based off that. What's that?
I mean, the time, the time cap you're going to smoke.
Oh, time I'm going to smoke. Well, yeah, hopefully. I mean, all that being said, the very endurance-based stuff that is kind of in my wheelhouse. I know, the standards for the push-ups are very strict. It's a little bit different than what I'm used to, so I'm practicing those right now. The run, though, is my jam. And knowing that I just need to get under a time cap and not have to worry about necessarily performance and doing it for time in order to be like placed, definitely gives me a lot more leeway. But I haven't tested it yet, but I'm pretty sure once we do it in the following week or so, I'll probably have a time probably in the 30s. I'm guessing, just based off my mile time. I'm not going to be going at max speed. And then 100 push-ups, 100 crawl-outs, a very, very upper body base. So, what's the best way to prepare for that, considering like there's a lot of upper body movements there, and then there's a run as well, and we don't want to like blow myself up the day of the test.
Yeah So it comes back to what we were saying before, which is you got to build a broad base. You got to build a lot of so this is a muscle endurance test, And the way, in simple terms, the way you prepare for a muscle endurance test is you do a lot of reps. Period. Your body needs to be able to endure, perform, and recover a lot of reps. So you have to do that in your training. And that ties back up to what we're saying with the building phase. We need to make you do a lot of volume. And then we need to make you do a lot of volume of the movements specific in the test. So when you're going to test it now, you have some volume in you, but you don't really have the volume of these specific movements. So we'll get a decent score. But then when we retest and we push it a little bit harder, you're probably going to smoke your initial time because you're going to have run more. You're going to have done a lot more reps in training. And so you're going to be more resilient. And so that's essentially the way that you would want to do it. And then when you're going to be doing the event specifically in the next couple of days, the way you want to pace it out is because it's all right. It's all shoulder things, shoulders after shoulders after shoulders. So you want to break it up into small sets from the beginning in the first, let's call it like 70% of the event. You don't want to meet too much muscular failure because you want to be able to push, recover, which is faster than just going really deep, having to recover for a really long time and so on. And then you take chances in the last little bit when you want to squeeze out a few seconds at the end to make the best time.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'll be honest, I'm very nervous about all of this. Which is always a good sign. Kind of like when I was getting ready for the Ironman, I was shitting bricks for a year, worried that I wasn't going to be able to get over the finish line. And because I had that fear, it just created the not just the motivation, but also just the mindset that like, no, I am an Ironman. I am going to complete this, and an Ironman doesn't miss workouts. So this is the same type of philosophy, and I need these kind of big goalposts because I haven't had one for a while to aim at so that I can really focus in my training. Because up until now, I didn't really have a main focus other than I just want to get stronger. So now I'm starting to kind of piece things together. And like, for instance, I'm doing a High Rocks thing tomorrow on a whim because I realize if I have those things kind of just peppered in, I can really keep motivation high and really get my head around what I'm doing in the gym. So cool. Thanks for all these insights, LP. The way forward is we're going to have a few other touch points here. And folks, like if you're, watching this on YouTube, you definitely want to subscribe because I'm going to be going through kind of my journey here. And then obviously you'll see some stuff once I get on site from the Bedros Keuilian team because they publish everything online. So you get to see me suffer through a lot of this, through reels and whatnot. So I'm nervous, but that's a good thing. I can't wait to get started in March on a 72-hour journey. And everything leading up to it is going to be just a test of just my will and resolve. And I'm going to get freaking jacked and sick fit by the end of it too. So it's a win-win-win. It's a win-win-win. Like, yeah, 100%. Why not?
Like you said, that's the Goggins thing, no? Like if your goals don't scare you enough, then they're not big enough. Paraphrasing 100%. Here, but that's essentially what we're talking here.
100%. After this, I don't know what it's going to be, but it's definitely going to be something else. And you're absolutely right. If they don't scare you, then it's not going to be as motivating moving forward. So thanks for your insights, buddy. We're going to do a few more of these in the future, and folks, stay tuned for more in the future. All right, train hard, train hard, fight easy. See you on the next one. Peace.
Take it easy, team.
I hate t-shirts that get floppy in the arms after 10 washes. So that's why I created a bunch of t-shirts with high quality cotton just for you so that you can go to the gym and look fresh, sport some philosophy, and smash those PRs looking good. So you need to head to davemorrow.net/merch, grab yourself a hat, grab yourself a t-shirt, grab yourself a sweater, and support the cause today.